Hi there guys, this is Card back with another video, and in this video we'll be talking about how to build Kirishima and how to make him the best tank out there with a lot of HP and a defense so that he can survive almost everyone. So on a note that Kirishima is always given out for free in the first 10 pull to almost all the players. Now a lot of players do used to play him at the beginning but start to feel like he's not good enough at the beginning stages, but that's not true. At the end game, you will see how overpowered Kirishima could be, and how to build him is what I'm going to be showing in this video. And yeah, I hope that this video helps you build your Kirishima to the best potential and like survive all your opponents at lower levels or even at higher levels, like how I'm doing it right now. And yeah, so let's begin. So this is what my Kirishima looks like. Now I'm currently holding a totally damage focused build, so my Kirishima is not that highly built, but he's semi built right now as compared to my main DPS, which is All Might Glamour or Glam. And if you have not already seen how to build Glam, then I would definitely recommend seeing that video. So but this video is about Kirishima, so let's begin. Alright, so this is my Kirishima. He has 6.5 million HP almost, and then he has almost 300,000 physical defense and 250,000 magic defense. He's currently level 100, and I'm almost working towards level 110 so that I can definitely make him more tankier because it gives him crit damage reduction. Alright, so let's begin with his skills at first. His normal attack basically just hits one enemy for 90% physical damage, and it has a 50% chance to give them bleed. And bleed is basically a damage over time skill, which will deal damage based on 80% of your Kirishima's attack for every round, and that's only gonna be there for 2 rounds, and you can stack multiple bleeds on him, so it's definitely useful. If you can inflict that 50% chance of bleed on your opponents when you hit them with your normal attack. Then his ultimate, which is very useful, is basically he deals 315% physical damage to just one enemy, which is a very high scaling, to be honest, because 315% is quite a lot. But at the same time, he restores 10% of the max HP, so when he does his ultimate, he's going to be restoring quite a lot of HP as a result, and it's definitely recommended that he usually does his ultimate all the times. Now mostly he's going to be getting his rage back and almost doing ultimate in every round once you start making him like the way you're supposed to. Alright, so costume wise, level 10, basically what it does is whenever Kirishima takes damage, there's a 50% chance to inflict 1 stack of bleed. So if you remember, when he does his normal attack, he gives the opponent's bleed. Basically at level 10, when he's attacked, there's a 50% chance of giving the opponent bleed as well. So basically the bleeds can stack on top of each other, so the opponents are going to take a lot of damage at the end of the round when their turn finally comes. For star wise, his stars are the most important. Now as I mentioned, now this is a normal S character unlike Glam, and it's really hard to get Glam, but Kirishima is pretty easy to farm in general. You can easily get him from recruits. If you can't, then there's a wish list where you can put him so that you can easily get him. And not only that, in the stores, if you go to the Union shop, there's Kirishima right there for 6,000 Union coins, which is definitely recommended for getting. Now I'm not getting this one because I already have him at max stars, that is 12 stars, but it's best to get your Kirishima at the highest stars possible. So at 2 stars, basically Kirishima reflects 20% of the damage that is taken and then restores 30% of the damage that was reflected. So basically what Kirishima does is, if Kirishima is hit for 1,000 damage, he's going to deal 200 damage back to the attacker who dealt that damage, and from that 200 damage that was reflected back, which was given back to the opponents, 30% of that 2000, that is 600 HP, is going to be healed on Kirishima. It is not 30% of the total damage that is taken, but the damage that is reflected. So it's that 20% damage which is being reflected, that thing's 30%. So that is his 2-star. Now 1-star gives him HP, which is very needed because Kirishima is a tank and you need to like stack up a lot of HP and defense. Same goes for 3-star, it gives you defense, which is pretty good for Kirishima. Now at 4 stars he reflects 50% of the damage that is taken, and in this way you're going to be healing even more when you survive. Now this damage is reflected even if your Kirishima dies, but in this case if he dies, the HP which is to be restored, that is not restored because he's dead already, but the damage is still reflected. And the 5th star is not that needed because it's attack percent, and Kirishima is not like an attacker, but at the same time it's pretty good because his bleed is basically calculated based on his attack, so it's pretty useful to get that attack percent. And as I mentioned, Kirishima is definitely someone you should start up to the max as soon as possible because he's way easier to get than Glam or other characters in general. And at 6 stars you get 80% of the damage taken is reflected, so you heal way more than what you're supposed to. If you just have him as a starting at like 0 stars or 1 star, 2 star, he heals way more because now this 30% is gonna be of the damage, 80% of the damage that is reflected. So if someone deals 1000 damage to your Kirishima, he's gonna hit back for 800 and then heal back for 240 if I'm not wrong. Whereas in an ideal situation like this, it would only have been 660 healing. So it's like almost 4 times the healing if you think about it. Definitely required. And right after that, as his 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11 and 12 stars, the most important factor is his HP scaling and defense scaling. All of his stats get increased by a percentage, so his HP is increased by 15%. His physical defense and magic defense is also increased by 15%, but that's at 11 and 12 stars. It's 12% at 9 and 10, and then 10% at 7 and 8 stars. And it's pretty required, as I mentioned, because he's easy to get. You can easily start him up to these stars and take advantage of that HP and defense bonus, so it's really recommended. Now for loyalty, my Kirishima right now is at loyalty 2 because I'm out of loyalty coins, but I'll be farming those soon. But I would not recommend keeping his loyalty this low. Now right now I have a sub-tank Kirishima, like he's not someone who's going to be tanking for the entire game, but rather he just needs to tank as much as he can for the first few rounds so that my Glam can clear out all the opponents. And that's why my loyalty is pretty low right now, because I have all of my loyalty focused on Glam. As you can see, he's on 5 right now. But in an ideal situation at the beginner stage, try to get his loyalty as high as possible. I would prefer T3 level 0 if you are not able to get enough resources because you need to increase the loyalty of your other heroes. Then T2 level 5 is also something that you can stop at, but the bare minimum is T2 level 0 because that is very much needed for your Kirishima because he can survive longer, and obviously if he survives longer he also reflects more damage, and in that way he even deals a lot of damage. And again, these loyalty ascensions basically give you 8% of HP and defense bonus for every 5 levels that you increase, and T1 is basically 10 levels. If you try leveling them up you'll notice, so definitely try going for 3 or 2.5 or 2, whichever you would like to. For gears, I would personally go for 4 of the same gear, and if you're running a defensive team then definitely go for the highest tier gear that you have, or highest quality gear that you have. But if your DPS is using the highest quality gears, then go for the second highest quality that you have. And what I would recommend is keeping all 4 of the same quality. Now if you're building or trying to go for better gears, you can definitely do that, but what you'll be missing out on is if you have 4 of the same kind, at the highest level you get a lot of damage bonus, which is fine, but the best part is damage reduction. Now Kirishima is someone who needs to reduce the damage that he's taking so that he stays alive for a longer time, and the more he stays alive, the more damage he's going to reflect and more damage he's going to deal. And at the same time your team can also stay alive and run the game for like late rounds or like run it for a long time. Alright, And the most for upgrading his gears, I would personally go for P defense or the armor, because it gives you P defense and it's a must on Kirishima, because currently in PvP, Glam deals physical damage. So the more physical defense you have, the lower damage you will take from Glam's 350% ultimate. Like this 350% can go down almost to 0% sometimes if you have a lot of physical damage on your Kirishima. So definitely go for armor. And then boots, because it gives you HP. The more HP you have, the more you're going to heal with your ultimate, the more you're going to survive. So boots and our armor are the two most important ones, and I would definitely try leveling them up as much as I can. And I would say an ideal stopping point would be 200. Now, if you do not have enough resources to get it to level 200, 160 is also something that you can stop at, because 160 definitely helps you quite a lot. So it's gonna be 160 on boots and armors. Now the shin guard, which is pretty useful for other opponents that could hit your Kirishima, like Tomura and other characters who deal a lot of damage. In that case, shin guard is also pretty useful, and I would not make it go or lag behind the armor or the boots at all. I would try to keep it as close as possible to those. Maybe if you're having them at 160, try going for 150. If you have them at 200, then go for even higher on your shin guard than 150, but not 200, but close to that. Vambrace, now again, Kirishima is not someone who needs a lot of attack, even though his bleed can do more damage if he has higher attack. But I would not recommend going for Vambrace at the first priority, because again, Kirishima is someone who does not need attack, but rather a lot of HP and defense. But Vambrace also needs some ascension and like level ups, because obviously as you level these up, right here you can see when you level them up, you're gonna also get some enhancement levels. Like at level 160 all four, you're gonna get 1300 attack and some P defense and some HP. So that definitely helps quite a lot. So again, most important boots, then armor, then boots, then shin guard, and then Vambrace. Now for modifications, I would go for a multiple of 2, because for every multiple of 2 you get damage bonus, which is good, but you get damage reduction, which I mentioned. Kirishima needs as much damage reduction as possible so that he takes lesser damage, survives longer, and ultimately deals more damage from his reflex. So he needs a lot of damage reduction. So my personal stopping point would be 16. If you can easily get him to 16, then definitely do that. But keep it in multiples of 2. Like as you can see, all of mine are level 16 right now, from which I'm getting 16% damage bonus and 16% damage reduction. So definitely try stopping for a multiple of 2. So that's his gears. Now for his costume, level 10 is a must. Now apart from level 10, I would definitely go for level 30. But if you do not have enough resources, I would say 28 is a good stopping point, because it gives you a lot of damage reduction, plus you do not need that starting rage. And I can explain that real quick, because he also regenerates 1 rage when he's hit by an attack. I forgot to mention that. Whenever he's hit by an attack, he'll always regenerate 1 rage. That is from his transcending, and I can explain that real quick. But a good stopping point would be 28. If you do not have a lot of resources, 22 is also a good stopping point, because it gives you a lot of HP. He does not need attack or damage bonus, but the reduction is pretty useful, so 28 is a good stopping point. If you do not have a lot of resources, 18 is a good stopping point. 12 if you're a beginner, 12 is also a good place to stay. Alright, so just a quick note for his transcending. If you can see, 50% chance to recover 1 rage when hit by an attack. Whenever your Kirishima takes damage, he reduces the rage of the attacker who's attacking him by 1. But that's a 50% chance, which is still quite a lot, so it's useful. Now what I would personally recommend is, for leveling him up, try leveling him up as much as you can. Now he could lag a bit behind your main DPS, but apart from that, I would definitely level him up as much as I can. And a good stopping point, in my opinion, would be somewhere around right here, so level 70. If you're able to get him to 70 or 90, it will be a good stopping point, because he gets a lot of HP from that and also some damage reduction from that. So it's quite recommended. Now for chips, The one and only chip that you should be using on Kirishima at a higher level is the aux chip. Now what it does is, first it gives you damage reduction by 20%, which is good, but the biggest part is when you're restoring HP, whenever you take damage, you restore 20% of that damage which was dealt to you as your HP. Now if you level that chip up, you get 30 and 45%. Like mine is at level 1, so I can get him 30% of the damage which he's taking, he's gonna heal back, which is quite a lot, to be honest, because if you remember, his normal star ups do not heal you like as high as this much, so it's definitely a must. But if you do not have the aux chip, the second best chip that I would definitely go for is the blood sucking chip, which basically whenever you use your ultimate, it's going to heal you for whatever damage you deal by your ultimate. Now if you remember, his ultimate already heals him, and the higher the attack he has, the more bleed damage he's gonna deal. So this chip is very useful because this chip not only heals your Kirishima, but if he's already at max HP, this chip will heal your party members. So Kirishima can be really useful if he has this chip. And if you do not have chip 9, I would only recommend chip 12 and chip 9. So you should definitely try for chip 9 if you cannot go for chip 12, because that's very hard to get. And chip 9 is a good stopping place. Chip 15 right here is pretty good, but I do not recommend it on Kirishima because he does not need that rage and like recovering even more rage when he's hit by an attack. So I wouldn't recommend going for chip 15 if you do have it. But apart from that, the chip 4, which increases your damage reduction, is also something that you could definitely go for. Now if you do not have any of the ones that I have mentioned, but you do have the damage bonus one, you can definitely go for this one, because the higher damage he deals in his like through his ultimate, he also heals more based on that damage he deals in his ultimate. So definitely more useful because of yeah, you know what I mean. So it's kind of useful if you use that chip right there. Alright, and for his modules, I would go for the highest quality HP module. Now HP modules in general are a bit more costlier and expensive than the other two modules, but it's definitely worth going for the red ones. I would definitely try going for the red ones, but if you do not have the red ones, go for the golden or the purple ones based on how new you are to the game. Right after that we have the defense module. I would go for the red ones for this as well, but golden and purple are also pretty recommended because obviously he is definitely someone who's supposed to focus on HP and defense. Now for his attack, it could be anything. I would not even kind of worry about his attack, but if you're definitely going for that bleed damage increase, then you could potentially go for red, gold, but I wouldn't recommend going for that. Because that is required by your DPS, so I would definitely give the DPS the highest tier module that I have, if that helped. Alright, so with that we're done with gears and chips and costume. I'll come back to the mentalities at the end. So for crystals, the only crystal you should use is the Tenacious. If you do not have the Tenacious set yet, definitely go for it. Like farm it in any way if possible from the dojo, or if you have some transistor boxes, get the Tenacious one in any way possible. Why? Because one, it gives you HP, but the better part of this is if you're hit by a crit shot, it recovers 60% of the crit damage. Now if an opponent hits you for 1000 damage and it's a crit shot, or if you're taking 1000 damage as a normal attack, you're gonna get 1500 as a crit shot. 60% of that 1500, or it should be around 900 HP, is going to be recovered just by this transistor. So it is extremely useful. It is definitely useful, and Tenacious is the only one that I would recommend. Now if you do not have any good Tenacious ones, I could also advise Wisdom Transistor because it gives you defense bonus, but the 3 pair effect does not quite occur at all, because that is only if you trigger a control effect you get a rage. 1, rage is not required by Kirishima. 2, he does not have crowd controlling talents, so definitely not extremely recommended. But if you do not have any of Tenacious, you could go for that one. Now if you don't have any of these, You could go for the Courage Transistor, which increases your damage as such, but I wouldn't recommend that. Same goes for Fury. If you do have Fury, you get the attack bonus, so you deal more damage, heal more, and make the bleed damage increase as well, but I wouldn't recommend that as well. And if you cast your skill again without consuming rage, you can heal more, but I don't know if that's worth it than going for the tenacious ones, because that heals 60% of the crit damage that you take. With that on the note, the substats that I focus the most on is crit reduction, because if you're taking crit damage scaling is always higher than damage bonus scaling, which is higher than attack bonus scaling. So if you're taking crit damage, you're gonna already take higher damage. So if you can reduce that crit damage by a lot, crit reduction is definitely something that you should get. Crit damage reduction on your substats. Now, damage reduction is also something that you should be going for, because if you take lesser damage by default, you're going to survive longer, and same goes for crit reduction. You're gonna survive longer and then reflect more and also heal more, because in general you're already healing a lot because of tenacious. So yeah. And another one which I would recommend is HP bonus, because the higher HP, the more survival chance. Same goes for P defense and M defense bonus, because your defense is increasing, you're already taking lesser damage, which means you're surviving more. Now, one thing that is a misconception that I've seen in a lot of us is crit resistance. I personally, when I'm using Tenacious Transistor, I do not go for the crit resistance one, because if you have crit resistance, that basically means your odds of not getting hit by a crit. If you do not get hit by a crit, you do not heal for the 60% of that damage dealt. So if a player just does 1000 damage and it's not a crit, you're not going to heal for 600 HP. Whereas if he deals that same 1000 damage and he crits you, you're gonna heal for 600 extra HP. So I do not recommend crit resistance, but if you do get like one roll like how I have gotten here, you could use it. I'm not saying it's like completely useless. It is useful in some situations, but I don't recommend it. Now, another important one right here is dodge. If your Kirishima completely dodges the opponent and does not take any damage, he has higher chances of surviving, because if the opponent had any buffs on them, which was making them deal higher damage, those buffs are gonna go away with the next round, unless they're like regenerated or like casted or something to give those buffs again. But otherwise those buffs will go away and then you'll take lesser damage. Matter of fact, no damage if you can continuously dodge. So dodge is also something important on your Kirishima. So those are the substats that I would go for. Now, mentality wise, we'll come to mentality. Mentality wise, I would say, again, Kirishima is a tank who needs to survive as much as he can. So I go for HP, defense, crit reduction, damage reduction, dodge, and then just the golden version of those as well. Whichever ones I had left over, I just gave it to him. Now, mostly I would recommend the golden one. So the golden HP gives you quite a lot of HP. Again, you need HP so that you can survive longer, deal more damage with your reflect, and yeah, overall just survive longer and deal more damage. Apart from that, you need that defense, because obviously the higher defense, the lesser damage you take, the more you heal already, and the higher chance of your survival. Then crit reduction. This basically again means how less damage you take when you're hit by a crit shot. So if you take lower crit damage, you already heal with your Tenacious Transistor, while at the same time you survive and yeah, live longer. Apart from just that, I am also using the damage reduction, if I can find that one real quick. Damage reduction. So I definitely recommend this as well. Now, I don't have it on him because I already have the red version of it, and it's hard to get the red ones, so I only explain the golden ones. So damage reduction, if you take lesser damage, you're already healing because of the way he's built, and overall surviving longer because you're taking lesser damage, and you already have him pretty tanky because of HP and defense. So it's overall on him. Now, apart from just that, dodge is something that I would definitely recommend, because if you're able to dodge his shots or opponent's shots, you're gonna survive longer by default. So definitely something that I would recommend, and you can definitely go for that. Now, apart from just those, there's crit resistance right here. Now, I personally do not use it on Kirishima at all, because of the explanation that I gave you. Tenacious won't heal you if you do not get hit for a crit shot. So definitely something that I don't use. Now, one exclusive red mentality, which is kind of a must for Kirishima, is basically the vampire mentality, which basically states 18% of skill damage is converted into health healing yourself. What this means is basically when he does his ultimate, not only is he healing from his ultimate itself and also chip 9 if he is using that, but this additionally heals only Kirishima, not all the team members, but only Kirishima for 18% of the damage that he deals with his ultimate. So it's a kind of a must for Kirishima, and it's really useful because the longer he can survive, the better it is. Now, one thing if I forgot to mention is Ox Chip's 20% damage dealt healing is also healed to your teammates. So if you have teammates who are also at low HP and they're alive and not dead already, this 20% or 30% is also healed to them. So it's pretty useful. Now, I don't know why that happens. It's not supposed to be honest, but it's just how it's working right now. So that was basically all the explanation that I could give you. And I'm gonna show you some of his teams in a later on video, which basically explains the best teams that you can use. But this is what it is right now. And for the hero bonds, I have all the bonds unlocked. Now the important ones are the red ones. They're kind of hard to get, so it's basically getting both of them is pretty good, because you get HP bonus in this way and you get P defense in this way, but the attack also helps you in bleed damage. So overall, Kirishima is pretty insane. And I can show you some damage absorption test or damage taking test real quick. So here we go. Now right here, my Kirishima is pretty well built, so I'm trying it on chapter 60, so I can show you how much damage he can easily take. And I forgot to show you my Kirishima's current stats, but otherwise this is what happens. He dealt that damage and he healed for quite a lot because of the mentality and stuff. Now this is chapter 60, and you saw how my damage reduction and crit reduction was so less that I totally took no damage, and I'm already at max HP right now. And mostly what happens in games like this is my Kirishima will always survive till round 20, which I can show you in just a quick second, and not die at all. Now, as you can see right here, we're already on round 3, everyone is dead, but Kirishima is already at max HP, and he's still healing himself for like 4 million HP each time he's hit. And if I skip right here, you will see round 20 being hit. There you see, round 20. So my Kirishima survived till the end of that game, and he took in quite a lot of damage, which I can show in real quick. So here, from chapter 60, stage 15, I took 27 million damage while I healed for 70 million, and now 200 million right here looks quite a lot. Now he didn't deal this much damage, but most of this damage right here comes from his reflection. Every damage that he took in this 27 million, 80% of that was inflicted back to the opponents itself. So 80% of 27 million was already added onto this 201 million damage that he did. So definitely he has damage dealing capabilities because of his star ups and damage reflect. So I would definitely recommend going for as much stars as possible for Kirishima, so that getting him to 6 star is going to reflect 80% of damage, as I said, and also help you restore HP so that he can survive till round 20, just how you saw. So yeah, that was basically my Kirishima guide, and I'll be showing the teams that he can be used for in a near future video, in which I'll just explain his best team strategies and how you can play him so that he can survive opponents in the long run, and it's definitely useful. So yeah, be waiting for that video, and that is it for this video. I hope you like this, and I hope this helps you build your Kirishima pretty well. So yeah, thank you. That is me signing off, and bye bye.